Oh, it's so wonderful to see you again. Come in and unwind. Welcome back to the Celestial Café, a podcast for the magical mind.
So come, take a seat. Would you like something sweet? A star drop potion for the soul? Maybe an enchanted eclair as a treat?
I just baked a batch of warm cookies with a dash of moonlight. I wonder what will happen if you take a little bite.
Here is your bewitching beverage. Let each sip melt your worries away. It's time to open your mind. I wonder what magic awaits us today.
Okay, and welcome back to the Celestial Café podcast, a podcast for the magical mind by the magical minds, where we chat about all things magic and fun and cool and astrology and all of that good stuff. Today is a full moon episode. We're going to be chatting about the full moon in Virgo that is happening next Tuesday, as well as Saturn entering Pisces, which is a big deal.
Yes.
I think it's going to be in this sign for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah, until May 2025.
Good
so
Lord.
It's going to be hanging out for a little bit. Yeah.
It's a long-term commitment.
Oh yeah. Typical Saturn, classic long-term commitments. He's really good at that.
So this is the Celestial Cafe. We love all our tasty treats and delicious beverages. What are y'all sipping on in the Celestial Cafe chat? And what are y'all sipping on? I brought a Dr. Pepper because I'm feeling really witchy today.
I'm in the same
it's a
boat,
joke.
actually. I have a Pepsi, at least Pepsi Cola specifically, made with real sugar. So that
Wow.
is what I'm drinking. I went to go make tea and I was like, I want some.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm
You
a degenerate
inspired
today.
me.
too, though.
You inspired me to make tea, and you didn't even. Make
I literally
tea.
went and filled up my teapot, turned it on, and then I went, nah, and turned it back off. I was this close.
Yeah, I don't know.
have.
Oh, you go. You have a more interesting drink than I do.
Oh well, I made two different teas together. I have blueberry green
Whoa.
tea and Moroccan mint green tea.
Ooh, that sounds
I-
yummy.
that
I
made
love
together.
Moroccan mint.
But also,
Yeah.
I have this shiny new teapot,
Ooh.
and it's rainbow iridescent, which is my favorite.
It's that like
thing.
oil
So-
slick color
Yeah,
palette.
Yeah.
like rainbow
Yeah.
titanium
So-
sort of thing.
So it's my very first time using this teapot. So far so good.
And we got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the chat over here. I see some soda, water, red wine, honey lemon ginger tea. Everyone's just sipping their best things ever.
Yeah, I
Um,
see someone mentioned Girl Scout cookies. I think everyone got their Girl Scout cookies today, myself included.
I'm
So
jealous.
happy.
I don't have Girl Scout cookies.
Happy
Me
Girl
neither.
Scout
I
I
cookie
don't
day.
remember the last time I had Girl Scout cookies. It's been years.
You gotta.
All my friends have kids that are boys, so they all
Okay,
have
wait.
Boy
So what is your
Scouts.
guys' favorite Girl Scout cookies? I
Thin
need to know.
mints.
Samoa.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Samoa caramel delights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the trefoils.
Oh,
but-
those are good
but-
too.
I like a
Thin
good
Mints?
shortbread cookie.
Thin mints from the freezer.
Yep,
those
yep.
are
Yes,
really
Yeah.
good.
I don't
yes.
like minty things. I can't.
Well,
It
that's a
hurts
skill
me.
issue.
Wow.
Whoa.
Literally,
Drama.
as I'm drinking mint tea.
And,
I wish I liked mint. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're not a mint fan. I love mint.
Not a mint
It's
person.
I
actually
love
funny. So, if you don't mind me saying, I got like the French toast cookies. I got the brownie peanut butter cookies. I got tagalongs here. I don't know the names of any of these. The lemon ones. And
God, you're stocked up and ready to
oh,
go.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And there's we actually did not purchase any Thin Mints this year. I don't know. It's over for us, I think.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for the record, I'm drinking water. I'm in my water era. I'm just chugging water all day long, all the time. I've not really been
That's so
craving
good.
other.
I also have
drinks at the moment.
water,
Of
as
course.
I do, but tea is flavored water. So.
So yeah, today we're going to be chatting about the full moon in Virgo. If you would like to get more information on our podcast with our social media and how to support us on Patreon, which helps us create more and more content for you, then you can find that at celestialcafe.org, as well as blog posts with show notes for each of the episodes, and all of that good stuff. So for today's conversation, I feel like we're surfing through some murky emotional waters right now. And it's almost like the new year is getting its kickstart is what it feels like to me.
Actually here.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
And
January,
even
February, just preparation, and now
yeah.
it's time
Even
to
a
go.
warm-up game.
It's weird because around here I know that somewhere like up north in the US there's been a lot of snowfall, but here in the mountains where I normally am still getting snowfall at this time of year, it's been like 70 degrees, 60, 70 degrees for the last like week or two. And I guess what the groundhog was not lying about his shadow, because I'm really not a big fan of winter, but I'm kind of like, wait a second. When winter's over, it means that I can't hibernate anymore. Hold on. I still want winter here.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to stay inside and stay cozy, right? During these
Yeah.
3 months.
Chicago's been having, so like we don't have spring, we have winter and then summer and then winter and summer and winter summer, like back and forth for about 2 months. That is our spring, but we've already started that, and we don't normally start that in February. Like it was 55 and then it was snowing and then it was 60 and then it was 40 and then it was freezing rain and then it was sunny. Like, so I just looked at the weather, like it's supposed to snow tomorrow. And then it's supposed to be it's supposed to be 50 the next day. I'm just like, apparently we started spring early. Our version of spring, the Great Lakes version of spring.
Yeah. Say in Northeast Ohio, we get like freezing, 160 degree day, freezing, 160 degree day. So like I had 2 teases so far that I'm like, summer, like, and I want it so bad, and then it's cold again the next day, and it's like, and back into seasonal depression. And it's like,
mood,
warm day, summer, back into seasonal depression.
And I'm waiting for I have like a patch of like that lovely city patch of grass outside my apartment that's just like between the sidewalk and the street, and I'm waiting to like plant, like just seed bomb it with wildflower seeds. And I'm just like, can I do it now? Can I do it now?
Well, it's crazy
No.
because
You can do it early. Just make sure that they're buried deep enough where they're not actually going to germinate until they're warm enough.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I had just gone to my storage unit to get a bunch of sweaters out of storage because it still was like really cold. And then like literally 2 days after that, it's just been nonstop 70-degree weather. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go back to my storage unit and put all of these sweaters up and get out all these short sleeve shirts. And yeah. So we've got the full moon coming up on Tuesday. Dukes, are you ready to give us the lowdown of what we can expect?
Yes. You don't have a vibe check for us?
I think I'm too depressed to do a vibe check, to be honest.
Okay.
So my vibe check is probably not going to be accurate for everybody.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that was a pretty good like vibe check of like spring's almost here, but it's not. But like we feel the energy of it, kind of like.
Yeah, I think
Like,
some
Maybe
of
more
us.
stuff will come up as we start talking about the actual
Yeah.
astrology of it. Maybe we can kind of like weave it in too.
Yeah,
The weather's a very safe topic.
it is a safe topic. That's what I always talk to strangers about too. I'm like, okay,
You talk to strangers?
I'm at the post office and I've got to have
so
a conversation. Wow, I can't believe it's so warm outside. Oh, what happened to the snow? It's a safe area. It feels good.
There's a lot of
I'm
people
just-
like talk down on like small talk, specifically weather small talk, but like I like talking about the
I
weather.
like
I
talking
don't
about
know.
the
Like
weather,
I was like
It
Me
bothers
too.
me when people don't like small talk.
meteorology.
Because I feel like there's so much like goodness in the small talk, and when
Yeah.
people are like, "Shut up, small talk. I don't care about. Don't talk to me." Like it's like, okay, just say
I
you're
fucking love small
like
See,
an asshole
no.
and go. I don't know.
No,
really,
in
but
Massachusetts, Massachusetts, we do not do small talk, like where I grew up. So, like moving to Chicago, where they do small talk, and they do a lot of small talk. It was very much a culture shock
I worked
for
at
me.
a coffee shop, so to me, like small talk was part of the job, and
Exactly.
I don't know, like we're just here to like ease things and make each other feel comfortable, and like I feel like small talk creates common ground for you to have an actual human connection rather than just coexisting in the same space physically with each other. But anyway, that's way off topic, I guess. But if I was gonna do like a general vibe check, I don't know. It feels like everybody's trying to plant seeds and they're either taking or they're not. And for those of us who the seeds aren't taking, the depression is kicking in. And for the people whose seeds are taking, then I feel like it's buckle up and go time. I don't know. I think I'm too depressed for it, honestly. I thought I would try.
Some
It's
people
not a good
are
idea.
in the false.
That was a good try.
You're still in the false spring.
I guess so.
That's
I don't know though.
You kind of see it, but it's not taking root. You're in the fall.
I think one thing too, like just throwing out another gardening metaphor since we're talking about planting seeds, but depending on the type of seeds that you're planting, they all have different start times, right? Like it's way too early right now to start your tomatoes, for example, or peppers. Those are like hot weather plants, but it's a great time to start like your brassicas, your cabbages and your broccolis and your cool weather plants like your spinaches and your lettuces. So maybe you're just planting the wrong seeds at the wrong time if you're not seeing the results that you want to, and you got to pivot to a different type of seed, right? Or if you're not seeing the results that we want right now.
Yeah. Knowledge is on our side right now, and Virgo backs that up. Wouldn't you know? Virgo's very, very studious, very analytical. Is the
Do you want me to bring you over? Okay.
I'm ready. If everyone else is ready.
Ready.
We have transitioned.
Okay, cool. All right, we are officially in astrology mode. So, first of all, happy Pisces season to everyone. Love to be here. Love to celebrate Pisces with everyone here. Shout out to all the Pisces in the chat. I'm a Gemini, but I'm a Pisces dominant. So I'm like a cheerleader for the Pisces out there. I feel very, very related to all of you. But we're gonna talk about the full moon in Virgo, which is gonna be an interesting discussion, I think. So it's gonna be on Tuesday, March 7th. It's going to be exact at around 7:40 EST AM. I said that backwards. AM EST. So that's going to be around like 4, almost 5 o'clock in the morning for West Coasters, and closer to a little afternoon for those who live in like the UK and GMT, right? You can figure out the rest of the time zones from there. And before we jump into the full moon, I love to talk about the energy of the sign itself, which is Virgo. I'll say personally, I have 0 Virgo in my chart. How about you guys? Do you have any knowledge on the Virgo and what you have?
My dad is a Virgo.
No Virgo.
That's all I got.
I'm surrounded by
no
Virgos.
Virgo, and I have no Pisces. I always wanted to be a Pisces.
I love being a Pisces, honestly.
Just all Capricorn, Scorpio, and Sagittarius.
I love this time of the year, but it also brings me into my feelings because Pisces is in my first house. So it has everything to do with me and my foundations, right? But Virgo energy, let's think. So it's an earth sign. It's mutable. A mutable earth sign is interesting to think about, I think, because I think that sometimes to someone who's just getting into astrology, it sounds a little, I don't know, opposite. It might be a little uncomfortable for something as static and consistent and tangible as Earth to be in this sort of mutable movement phase, right? But it's also supported because it's ruled by Mercury, just like Gemini is. So Mercury, you know, the planet of communication, the planet of cognition, and the way that we talk to each other, the way that we talk to ourselves, the way it's also rules transportation, all that fun stuff. And the words that I think about when I think of Virgo, I think they're very deliberate. They're very particular, very analytical, solutions-based individuals, those with strong Virgo leanings. I think that they're the very stereotypical bookworm of the zodiac, wherein they're the ones that are most likely to be curled up in the library, surrounded by a mountain of books, on the pursuit of knowledge, right? I also find them to be very persuasive because they're very knowledgeable, and that's where that Mercury comes in. I think that this Virgo energy, that they're able to sort of articulate very well, because not only are they well educated and well versed, they also, because of that earth sign, they want to bring things into fruition, into tangibility, and so therefore they're the ones that are most likely to delegate and persuade others. A word I wrote down, which might be a personal opinion, is brilliant. I find them to be brilliant of mind. They have a lot of really wonderful ideas, very inventive. I associate them with like almost a mad scientist trope, where they're sort of concocting these brilliant ideas and inventions, and they pour an ounce of this and just a trickle of that and a pinch of that, and it creates this incredible creation that none of us could ever process. And as opposed to maybe a sign like Sagittarius, which is more like lived experience. Virgo, they're like I said, very particular. They want to kind of have their hands into what they're creating. Something that I talked about the last Virgo Moon podcast, which I don't think is, this was before we started pushing it out on podcast platforms, but something that's stuck in my mind since then is that because I naturally I put sort of Gemini and Virgo as like buddies in my mind because they're both ruled by Mercury. And I wrote down that Gemini collects the knowledge and Virgo develops the technique from it. Gemini collects the wheat and Virgo turns it into bread. And is this like, this inventive, intellectual, determined, analytical placement and sign.
Yeah, so whenever I think of like my Virgo friends, hyper focus like always comes to my mind, but like different words, like I might hyper focus, but I have very hard times like actually doing. They like live by it. They like take something and it becomes their whole like personality almost, and they live it day to day.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they want to get absorbed, you know.
As a Capricorn, I always think of Virgos as the boring Capricorns. And I know that is not fair to them, but like when you say like they're very analytical and all, like they're very that they're very, what is it, the left brained, right?
Yes.
Is that the left brain? Like they're all very so in my head the way I categorize them is boring Capricorn. Not that I think that all Virgos are boring, but as a Capricorn my bias is definitely visible because I get compared, like Capricorns get compared to Virgos a lot.
Because I wouldn't call them boring so much as I feel like Virgos at first glance seem boring, but I think that they keep a lot to themselves.
They're standoffish a little bit. They're hard
to be clear. I don't actually think they're boring, but
I know I was just bouncing off of that.
The traits that they embody are what I find the boring parts of the earth signs.
Yeah, and I think that like Virgos are just so it very intellectually encouraged, I think, and assertive in that way. So I respect the ability of, and of course, like if you're a Virgo listening to this and you don't relate to this, you might not be a Virgo dominant. This is really for those that really stand firm in this Virgo lifestyle, you know, in this in the chart, right? And I don't know. Shout out to Virgos. You all intrigue me. That's how I feel about Virgos. You intrigue me as a fellow Mercurian soul. And I'm dating a very Virgo dominant individual. He's very Virgo and Capricorn dominant, so I'm surrounded by a lot of heavy earth energy. And he that's a word I use to describe him too. He's very intriguing. He brings a different point of view to things that make you go, huh. I guess I didn't really see it like that. That's what I see a lot with the Virgos in my life. They make my brain tick and make it work in a little bit of a different way. So I shout out to Virgos. They're pretty cool. But unfortunately, I guess none of us really have much Virgos surrounding ourselves in our lives. Which I guess kind of makes sense just for
my dad is a Virgo.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So I was raised by Virgo energy. I don't know. That's why I find them like they seem boring, but they let everyone else do the talking. They just sit back and observe so much. Like it's a lot of introspective and just I'm just watching. And I'm going to gather and collect all of this. And they have very specific times and moments when they will let their hyper focus kind of pour out of them, but they're very selective with who they show that to.
Yeah. And there's especially, I think one of the most powerful thing you could do with the Virgo is ask them, like, what do you think? And they won't say it out loud, but they'll be like, I'm glad you asked. And all of a sudden out comes all of this deep, beautiful information that they've been collecting the whole time. And you're like, wait, you remembered that? You recognize that from our conversation? You were able to deduct that? That's incredible.
I was like listening to all this and like everything you're saying really reminds me of my sister, and I don't know my sister's birth chart, but so I just looked up and she was born during a Virgo moon. And I was like, she's Gemini, she's Gemini sun, which it contributes a lot to why we did not get along growing up, I'm pretty sure. But she's a Virgo moon, and all of that, like the book learning is very much like the analytical. One of my favorite examples of her being really book smart but really dumb in other regards was I was an art student and she went to my art exhibit, and we like recreated shoes out of different materials, and we had the shoe on display also, and she was like, did you also make the shoe? I'm like, so like that's like Virgo energy to me.
Right.
Like very book smart, but very analytical.
And that's a part of the Mercurius energy. I think that that's how it sort of comes through. Somewhere in between Virgo and Gemini is pure Mercury. And I love that about my friends over in Virgo land. So that's pretty cool. But so that's Virgo energy. But let's talk about this full moon in particular. So it's kind of interesting. As you can see, there's a big party going on in Pisces and Aries. The gang's all here. It's very dreamy up in here. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of when I think of Pisces energy, we talked about Pisces energy pretty recently, and Pisces comes through so heady and it's so just larger than life, like almost alien energy, where we just want to tap into this our hopes and our dreams, and then there's that little bit of fire that's coming through with Aries as well. That cardinal, there's a lot of cardinal energy in this chart, and cardinal energy is very on your mark, get set, go energy, where we kind of hit the ground running and start moving. But the first thing I like to look at when I look at the moon is I like to look at where the ruler is, which we've mentioned a few times. The ruler of Virgo is Mercury. I wanted to see where that is. And yeah, Mercury's hanging out in Pisces at the moment. And here's the thing. Mercury is not comfortable in Pisces. Mercury's not happy here. Mercury's out of its... Pisces is too uncertain for the curious Mercury energy. So what does that mean? I think that for right now, for those who are currently problem solving, which is a word that I would use to describe this moon, this is I think that the combination of the Virgo moon and like this mercurial energy, there's going to be a lot of problem solving right now. And it's probably going to be hard to get direct and solid answers at the moment. And when it comes to information gathering, for those who are like, like, you know, I'm not happy with where I'm at. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. What should my next step be? You're probably not going to get an answer right now. But I think that we can kind of utilize this natural Piscean flow of information and kind of work with divination a little bit. I think this is a great moon for divination, for working with tarot and working with I don't know, your divination of choice. Pendulums. I wrote down bibliomancy, I think is really harmonious, because we think about the studious Virgo sort of opening up a page to a book, seeing where it lands, reading the first sentence that calls to you, and kind of working with that, I think is really interesting. And I think for those who are looking and seeking something, an answer, something that makes sense during maybe this moon that is more based in, I don't know, a bit of a dreamland. I think that we can really utilize the powers and energies of asking the universe, hey, what's going on, rather than maybe looking more tangibly in front of us. Maybe instead of looking for answers through, I don't know, the world around us. Maybe we got to look beyond and sort of trust where the universe is taking us. I also am feeling a bit of motivation. I'm feeling a bit of shifting around, because we dream big with Pisces and then we plan with Virgo, right? So it's a great time to plan and get inspired rather than do. This is a really good planning stage. This is a preparation stage. This is a release and refine what's not. And that's true too. Releasing and refining your brain space. That's also Virgo stuff, right? We're thinking about this area up here, very mercurial. Decluttering your brain space and sort of being like, okay, what isn't serving me right now? What is actually holding me back from this? And another word that's related with Virgo is perfectionism. And I think that that's something that's really good to challenge right now, what that means to you, how your perfectionism holds you back, how your expectations stop you from doing the things that you want to do. All these things are sort of bundling up at the moment.
I have a question though. So you said like now is the time for like Pisces is very dreamy and Virgo is planning it out. But you said it's not very much like the time to go, but we do have all that Aries energy, and Aries is very like go.
I think
so.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I was actually going to kind of lead into Mars, which is friends with Aries for sure. Mars is very happy in Aries. And I think that the way it's manifesting right now, agitation, irritation, no breathing, like it's just it's ruffled within you. I think a lot of people are feeling very internally heartbound, having trouble gathering your thoughts, having trouble kind of putting them into motion at the moment. It's unfortunate because, I mean, Pisces and Aries, it's like oil and water, I think, where it's just, it's hard to embrace that, you know, to sort of work alongside both of those things. And I feel like a lot of people are coming to conclusions that are upsetting them, and are just generally unhappy about some of the results that are being brought to light at the moment. And I guess, like, for some advice to sort of get through this troublesome problem-solving stage, grounding is really important. It's always important. But I think that this, because I'm just thinking of just this dreamy Pisces, and even Aries, I think, is so it's so exciting, and I think that we can very easily get swept up in Aries energy. And I think about Mars, which is so tangible, and it really has to deal with our body and how we feel, right? And the way that we connect with life on a very physical level. And that's why grounding is so important, making sure you're well nourished, tapped into your surroundings before making any big decisions, sort of just letting yourself be held by this earth-like moment. And does this resonate with you guys? Does this make sense? Do you feel this in the air at the moment?
I am feeling very much like the go do stuff energy, but then at the same time, like, I tried to do stuff and I just like was wiped out. Like, I spent all day yesterday sleeping because I was like, okay, maybe I did too much. But like I like, I'm done with the planning phase and I'm ready to put it into action. But
yeah, I think burnout's very tangible right now in the air. I think that a lot of people are trying too hard and practicing and pushing themselves too much into directions that are causing too much friction, and I don't blame them. The stars are supporting that. I think that it's important to listen and to sit with and to embody this motivational air, that energy that's in the air. But I think that this is just a wonderful time to plan, because there's so much friction, and because there's so much disappointment, and because the moon in Virgo is squaring Mars in Gemini. That's where all this is coming from, by the way. There's that T-square happening between the sun and the moon. We've talked about squares before. Squares are not fun. We don't like that. We don't like squares here. Anti-square zone. But of course, friction is what causes growth, is what causes us to sort of bottleneck our way through and then become more free than before. But it's totally valid right now to be feeling frustrated and agitated about not even like being able to decipher our thoughts at the moment, which is why I'm led into like divinate it, lean into that Pisces otherworldly energy, right? And like really receive it, because that's where Mercury is right now. Mercury, although unhappy, that's probably the best way you can channel Mercurius energy, through Pisces. It's sort of like, instead of looking for like, okay, instead of like asking like I don't know, like your it's very internal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like only it's not probably a good time to be seeking out what other people think what you should do. It has to come from you. It has to come from the universe and your connection to it, your connection to spirit. And I think that this, like I said, it's just such a good time to divine and work with tarot, work with oracle, work with dice, work with tasseomancy, with your tea leaves. It's just this is probably one of the best moments astrologically in a while, that it's just really supported by this spiritual knowledge and wisdom. Do you have any thoughts, Panthera?
Yeah, so one thing that this is just my like intuitive blobbering,
Sure.
I guess, but there's been such a long time of planning, and I'm kind of at the point where, at least me personally, kind of just going through like a tower moment where now I need to rebuild a little bit. I need to get back off the ground a little bit. And I at the same time, I can't just wait for too long, right? Like I'm kind of being forced out of this planning stage like a little early with a lot of these things. And and I feel like Virgo really leans a lot into this and is really good for this, but building slowly on the foundation and like making sure that the structure and everything is in place for you to be able to be successful, because I feel like that's kind of where this perfectionist kind of Virgo energy can like really lend itself to assisting you in like, okay, yes, you want it to be this way, but what are the steps that you can take to make sure that it's actually going to work out for you? You're not just going to like throw away your money or, waste a bunch of energy in a full out sprint. What are you going to do so that you can get to your actual destination that you want to get to? Whether that's like, pacing yourself or building good habits or whatever it might be. So
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that the main, I think a really good way to get there is I use this phrase already and I'll jump back to it. Decluttering the mind, I think, should be a pretty good goal right now. I think that a lot of us, and I think that this is a very typical winter moving into spring moment. And for the record, this is the last full moon of winter. So, we're starting to exit our hibernation. We're starting to re-enter the world on a grand scale. And I think that I don't know, usually when we start to jump back out there, we have a lot of ideas after the stillness of winter, a lot of plans, a lot of imagination.
It's like it's incubation period kind of like ideas and creativity, and now it's like ready to expand.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not, maybe this is not accurate because it's not my life, but I feel like this is a lot of what I've seen with you, Shady, with like you had all these plans of like getting back with the content creation and like doing like having like this schedule and like getting your sleep all changed and everything, and it was great, and then a roadblock, and now you're kind of like have fallen back.
That's just depression things, to be honest. Like it's not that it didn't work, it was just too many things at one time.
Well, that's where I feel like that's where like that Aries energy that Dukesley was talking about was like it can lead to the temporary burnout because you're trying to do too much. So.
Yeah. And that's why the word declutter is popping up a lot right now. Like another phrase that came to my mind as I was shower thoughting about this earlier was keep it simple, stupid. Like just like it's not that deep. Like we gotta release and refine what's cluttering right now. There's a lot of opportunity in the air, and I think that's also a Pisces thing. I think about like the Seven of Cups a lot for those who are familiar with tarot. Just a lot of different choices and decisions, and a lot of hmming and hawing, and I think it's best to. We mentioned this word multiple times as well, like prioritizing and like it's all those buzzwords that connect to just sort of us really narrowing down into what we want to do in our priorities.
I feel like one thing I've been really working on decluttering specifically from my mind is excuses. Just like I have so many things that I want to do, but I'm not doing it. And why am I not doing it? Just excuse after excuse after excuse, right? Not enough time, not enough money, don't know what to do, don't like doing it, whatever it might be, would prefer to do other things, and would just rather
like be playing Stardew Valley for 10 hours.
For me right now, it's that new Diablo 3 season, so like it's hard. But like I find myself in a spot where it's like I don't even necessarily want to do that, but that's like where my comfort place is right now, right? It's my default that when I'm in between working or I've got some free time to go sit on my computer and play a game for an hour or whatever. But I could spend that hour working out. I could spend that hour reading. I could spend that hour taking care of myself, taking a shower, cleaning my skin, whatever it might be, right? Like taking care of my animals. And or learning the skills that I want to be doing. So it's like, do I want to spend more time playing a game, or do I want to actually do these things that I really want to do? But it's preventing me from doing there's times for games, and that's great, but right now it's like every spare minute. It's like when you look at your phone, when you have like an extra minute, like you're microwaving food and you're spending that time on TikTok instead of whatever else, cleaning your kitchen, or it's like all these little things just like crowd and make it so that there's no option for you to do the things that you want to do, right? Because
I feel very called out now, because
I'm sorry.
well, I mean, not extremely called out, but so pretty much all of February I dealt with chronic pain in my back, and like to the extent where I could not really do much. I couldn't even sit at my computer most days, and it's finally gotten better, and so I was like, okay, this week I'm going to start my workout routine back up now that I can actually do physical stuff again. I'm going to start my workout routine back up. And what have I done? I have spent hours and hours and hours modding Stardew Valley, and then fixing the mods and playing a day and fixing the mods and adding more and finding more mods and spending 3 hours scrolling Nexus mods, just looking through mods. And I did get my mod list made, so at least I did something productive for other people. But like I could have taken a half an hour to just do some Just Dance or something. Like and
I wanna bring that to another phrase that I've not only been thinking a lot right now, but also in a lot of tarot readings I've been giving lately, and I think it relates to this too, is baby steps. Not really. You don't need to throw all your eggs in one basket right now. You don't have to throw yourself into this brand new idea and get lost in it and numb yourself in it, because Pisces is really good at that by itself. You don't need to supplement it with your own stuff. It's very easy to get lost in the sauce with Pisces energy. So I don't know, that's why this Virgo energy, so we can really utilize it right now, even though Mercury's not very happy in Pisces. I think that it one day at a time, one step at a time. There's no rush, and I think that's I think that we think that there's a rush because Mars is really breathing down the moon and the sun's back right now, and that's where that agitation is coming from, right? But we're still emerging from winter. We're still slowly re-entering society, even on a pandemic level, like it is still, we are still slowly reaping right now, and sort of sowing right now, where we're just sort of give ourselves some space, give ourselves a break, because the stars certainly are not gonna give us a break at the moment. There's a few months ago I mentioned or for at least a few podcasts now, I'm like, oh, we got a break from Saturn and Mars. Holy moly. No, they're back. They're back, and they're better than ever. The malefics are back in play. There's going to just be this sense of tension in the air for a little bit, especially for those who haven't conquered their lessons, which is most of us. They're usually tough lessons. And I don't know, I guess, just to recap real quick, it's just, if you're feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling annoyed because you're confused, I recommend tapping into something maybe a bit larger than yourself. This is a wonderful time for divination. Seriously, if you've ever felt a call to pull out your tarot cards, which I've actually been seeing a lot of individuals doing lately, those who own tarot cards, they're like, you know what, I'm kind of feeling the pull. This is your permission slip. Pull them out. See what the universe says with between you and the cards. I think it's such a beautiful time for that, and for those who are still just not who are maybe in the midst of like making big life decisions, you got to make sure you're doing it on a full tummy, full heart, a good night's rest. This is not the time to that's where you ground, not into the decision making itself, but into the preparation, the foundation of the decision making, if that makes sense. It has to come from there. But before we jump off the topic of astrology, there is a very important astrological movement that will be occurring on the same exact day of the full moon in Virgo, less than an hour later, which is that Saturn is entering Pisces. And I wanted to take a little bit to talk about this. And for those who are listening, 2 of our hosts have already gone through what is called the Saturn return, which means that Saturn has swung back to the indeed it has it is swung back around the sky to the exact place that it was where you were born. Saturn's on about a 2 to 3 year cycle in the sky, and so it takes about like 28 to 30 something years to get back to the place that it was in your chart. So people usually get 2 to 3 Saturn returns in their lifetime if they're lucky. And we talk about Saturn a lot here. Saturn is the planet of responsibility, boundaries, adulting, regulations, rules, containments, restrictions, all that fun stuff that we love and don't stress us out at all, surely. And it's this... Saturn is moving on to the next sign. So for those who want to get familiar with their chart, this is a good time to sort of tap in and see if you have Saturn and Pisces in your chart. So I know that Panthera and I do. So we're about to enter our Saturn return very shortly. However, Ty and Fuchsia have already gone through theirs.
It was a blast. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was so great.
It's fun to look back, I'm sure.
Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, in your 50s. The midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
Is when that usually pops up again. And it let me think. It's leaving its home sign of Capricorn and Aquarius. It loves being in those 2 signs, and they're back to back. So it had a good 6-year run in its happiest place, right, where it was creating restrictions freely and flexing its ability to create boundaries in our day-to-day lives. And now it's going to be entering very dreamy, heady, head in the clouds Pisces. And I think that a good way to kind of see how this might manifest for us is looking at the last time that Saturn was in Pisces, which was between the years of 1993 and 1996. So also for those who don't know, if you have Saturn in Pisces, that's a pretty good way to look. For those who are born in between those years, you're more than likely to have Saturn in Pisces. And the things that I think about during that time period is, first of all, we were introduced to and lost one of the biggest Pisces that have ever Piscesed on this earth, which is Kurt Cobain. I think grunge music was such a influential part of the journey through Saturn and Pisces, which was this sort of marriage between this psychedelic-esque exploration of the mind. We talked a lot about mental health during that time. That's when it really started bubbling up, and regular speaking points was during this time. This was also the launch of stuff like the World Trade Organization, us all sort of coming together and being able to flow amongst each other on a widespread scale.
It was also the early days of the internet.
It is very true. And it's when it started bubbling up and showing up on a wider scale, bringing people together, right?
That's when I got my first AOL account.
Aww. Humble beginnings.
Oh, flashback.
And I don't know. So Panthera, as a fellow Saturn and Pisces individual, knowing that Saturn kind of rules boundaries, regulations, rules time itself, and Pisces sort of rules this dreamy, non-tangible space. How do you think that manifests for you in your life?
Oh, put me on the pop quiz. I feel like this is going to be a difficult time of making sure that you're putting extra energy towards like enforcing boundaries and things like that, because it's going to be pushed against. There's going to be a flow, and especially if a lot of like your friends, your peers are people who are also going through this, and those are the people you're surrounding yourself with. I could see that being very like messy and difficult to kind of navigate. So just like, making sure that you're grounding yourself, because Saturn kind of needs that weight. I feel like it needs that grounding energy, that anchor. And whereas Pisces is kind of like, woo, like
wow,
hanging
I'm
out.
just happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the balloon that it'll fly away if you let it, right? But if you get like one of those weights that are at the bottom, then you can kind of set it down and not have to worry about it, and like still let the balloon float, let the balloon enjoy, but it's still like secure, right? It's not running away. It's not going anywhere. So,
and I think that people are going to be prone to sort of going in either direction. I'm seeing a lot of discussion from astrologers on like my social medias talking about this time period is like say goodbye to the grifters, say goodbye to the scammers, right? Those that
please. No more Instagram spammers or scammers.
Exactly. But I also think it could go in the other direction, because actually there's going to be a big Neptune influence with this, at least at the beginning of its transit. So we might even see an influx and then a crashing down of this type of mindset of sort of just like, I don't know, just like these individuals that are a word that I'm coming to a lot when I'm thinking about Saturn and Pisces, and also me as someone who is Saturn dominant and Pisces dominant, is delusional. It's delusions. And just the
calling herself
discussions
out
around
there.
I am. I'm fucking delusional. I live in La La Land 90% of the time. And I've created a nice home there. But now, as I'm entering my Saturn return, I'm being called back home to Earth. I'm being called to start taking this earthly life seriously, as Saturn does. And I wrote down some like phrases here, like making dreams, Pisces, into reality, Saturn. Ending, Saturn. Addictions, Pisces. Pisces is very good at numbing. And because we're so floaty, airy, like it's very easy for us to lose ourselves. So it's just going to be a really powerful time period for just like releasing those things that keep us sort of in like a tarot devil state. Our vices being well fed, right? I like this word I wrote down: magical, Pisces, career shifts with Saturn. I think we're going to see a bigger influx of tarot readers and astrologers sort of entering the fray, sort of allowing themselves to be more visible during this time. And to bounce off of what you said, I wrote down not being super accessible, therefore resulting in spiritual, Pisces, protection, Saturn. Spiritual protection. This is going to be a really important part of this. We're going to be seeing a lot of evil eyes protecting ourselves and making sure that our boundaries are nice and secure, because Pisces is probably one of the least boundary setting signs in the entire zodiac. And once again, going back to that word, grounding delusions, I think, grounding us like the paperweight you mentioned with the balloon, dreaming big, but how can I tangibly create that and manifest that in my life? But it's going to be curious to see how this plays out for the next few years. And for those like, and the Saturn return is astrologically, one of the hardest transits for pretty much everyone to go through. And I mean, think about it. Your 30s, as you enter it, I don't know, maybe this is when most people start to really embody their adulthood. They're past all the humbug of going to school. Most people have like a career at this point, and then things start to bubble up. Questions about, okay, So I'm hitting this sort of milestone once again, my 30s. How am I doing? Am I getting my shit done? Am I completing the tasks that I had and that I created when I was in my 20s? Am I getting paid well enough? Am I like all these really important questions start to bubble up, and then I don't know. It's not, one shouldn't dread their Saturn return, which a lot of people do. It's just that Saturn likes to spend time with all the children, all of his children in the zodiac, and he spends this time to teach you about what it means to live a boundary and filled it, which isn't a bad word either. Boundaries are very good. They protect you, right?
I gotta say, as someone who went through their Saturn return, it was not fun. It was not fun. But also at the same time, my life is so much better for all the lessons that I did learn finally through that Saturn return, and all the changes that both I personally made and also were forced upon me. Like everything, like those are like your Saturn return are very not formative years because you've gone through your formative years, but they are very impactful years.
I like that word a lot. Impactful. It's heavy-handed, right? Like you can't, it doesn't go under the radar. This is not an under the radar time for Saturn. He is in full force during your Saturn return. And like I said, a transit for Saturn is 2 to 3 years. So it's going to be hanging out in your chart for a while. And I don't know. It's going to be a pretty interesting time. I'm curious to see how it's going to manifest on a larger scale. It's one of those big old planets that you see sort of working its magic in day-to-day life as we look at stuff like, and when we think of rules of regulations, we think about laws, we think about legal stuff, we think about government, watching how all those things are going to evolve and change in real time, shaping our society. It's going to be curious to behold. Do you have anything to say about your Saturn return time for those who may be going through theirs at the moment?
God, I don't know. Good luck. It wasn't fun. I mean, what can I say? It was literally like my entire life got flipped upside down. Everything that I thought was what I was doing was no longer what I was doing. And then the next few years after that were just as confusing as the period leading up to it, because just because your Saturn returns doesn't mean that you're any better off than before it returned.
Yeah. Saturn encourages you to figure it out. And if you don't, I think Saturn's one of the planets that tells you when you didn't do it right. You know?
Saturn is very much...
It's a malefic. It's a malefic, right? And it's one of the strongest, powerful forces in the sky. But that's all I have to say, I think, for the astrology. If no one has anything else to add or think about or pontificate about, this is going to be an interesting time period.
So it's going into Pisces exactly an hour after the full moon peaks? Is that what you said?
Pretty much. A little bit like 55 minutes after the full moon hits its apex. So they're going to be kind of holding hands for a little bit. It's going to be interesting. This is an interesting full moon, and intriguing. Once again, I use that word for Virgo. I'm going to use that for this moon too. It's going to be an intriguing full moon. So I'm kneeling to all of us fellow Saturn and Pisces natives. We got this. Our airheaded, floaty mindsets and boundaries. We're going to really experience what happens when we tighten them up. Or if we don't tighten them up, we're also going to experience what happens with that too.
We're going to learn one way or another.
If your life doesn't change drastically during your Saturn return, either you, one, already had your shit figured out, which how did you do that? Or two, you are highly in denial of what's going on in your life.
I agree with that. Yes. Delusional, perhaps.
That's not intimidating at all.
It's a huge life change, but like if you embrace it, it can be really good. It's just
I think it can be a huge life change. I mean, it's whether you heed it or not. And sometimes the universe is like, you're going to deal with this, whether you want to or not. But other times, like, it's an intuitive thing, and you're picking up on the signals that you're in the wrong career path, but you just choose to ignore them, which means you'll probably be unhappy for the next decade or two until you're forced to face it with the second Saturn return. So it's sometimes it's intuitive. Can you pick up on it and decide to act on it? And other times you've already been ignoring it for long enough that the universe just shits on you to make sure that you got the message.
It can
so good
feel
luck.
very it can very much feel like the tower if you're not prepared for it.
Oh yeah, that's it. Foundations, right? That's all Saturn. This is really making sure your foundations are in place and ready to go. But
it doesn't have to be catastrophic. It doesn't have to be. Like I went through mine. Mine was not like, it was not fun. A lot of things in my life changed, but like a lot of the things in my life are so much better now. So
that's true. Yeah. And I mean, you're strong Capricorn, so you have Saturn deep in your blood too. So I'm sure you were able to bounce back a little better than maybe the average soul that doesn't have a lot of Saturn influence. But yeah, that's it for me.
So we're ready to jump over to Panthera?
The worm
moon.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh yeah, I love this. The worm moon.
Yeah, wormy.
I'm a little disappointed we don't have like a worm like gif on the screen. Like,
or a chlorm. We could get a chlorm real quick.
We get a chlorm.
Oh my god, the chlorm moon.
This is now Silly Sunday.
This is now officially the chlorm moon. So for all of you new people here, my section of the Full Moon podcast is talking about the traditional full moon name and kind of the correspondences and magical workings that you can do during this time. So traditionally, each moon kind of had its own unique name, and they were used to tell time kind of throughout the year, similarly to how we use months now. So different cultures all around the globe had different names for each moon phase. So definitely, if you are associated with a certain culture, or you have just certain cultures that are around you, maybe do some research and see what their names for these moons were. Today, the most common name for the March full moon is the worm moon, and this name comes from the Dakota peoples and refers to beetle larvae actually that are beginning to emerge from thawing trees, logs, and stumps. So not like earthworms as it's kind of associated with now, but little beetle larvae. But, you know, it kind of evolves over time, right? Like with everything else. So some other names for this moon is the eagle moon, which is Algonquin, the sleepy moon, which is Chinese, the goose moon, which is the Cree peoples, the parrotfish moon from New Guinea. So there's lots of different names depending on kind of where you are around the globe.
Lots of creatures. This is a lot of animals.
So you'll kind of see that theme throughout the year as we go through the full moon names. A lot of them are named after seasonal kind of events. So what animals are active during that time, what plants are starting to emerge and grow during that time, especially like staple food crops, and then like a big weather patterns like snow, cold, storm, thunder, those kinds of like patterns. So with the worm moon, we kind of have this like budding energy of spring, right? Like just like the worms and the beetle larvae are waking up and emerging from their eggs and from wherever they have been resting throughout winter. We've got our hibernating animals like bears waking up and re-emerging. We've got our first lambs of the season, as I'm sure we'll talk more about with Ostara and things like that. Life is beginning to return as the earth kind of warms up, at least for us in the northern hemisphere. So with the beginning of spring, this is a great time to plant intuitions, kind of just like planting seeds. So these are some great magical workings to do during this time. We've got change, cleansing, fertility, hope, luck. This is a great time for money magic or money workings, great for motivation, new beginnings, optimism, working with plants in general. And then you've got that like purification and transformation element. So lots of like spring cleaning vibes, reawakening, reemerging vibes, kind of like phoenix transformation energy, all these kinds of themes that are building up as we get closer and closer to the spring equinox, and then also the summer solstice, which will be like the next big event after that. So some correspondences for the worm moon. Colors are green, yellow, pink, and purple. Crystals that are good to work with during this time are aquamarine and bloodstone. Bloodstone's one of my favorites to work with.
It
That's
would
cool.
be.
I
Yeah.
love Bloodstone.
I'm
It's a
not
good one.
surprised hearing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You do peg me as a Bloodstone individual.
It's
I don't know.
it's
you're
not one of my
very rooted.
go-tos, but I do like a good bloodstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some good deities to work with during this time, or if you already work with these deities, a good extra time to do like extra rituals or some offerings and stuff for them is Isis, the Morrigan, Hecate, Minerva, and Artemis. Some great herbs during this time are lavender, thyme, betony, high john, and pennyroyal. Some great trees are dogwood and apple. So we've got those like budding blossoms. It could also be like a good like cherry blossom time, I could see. Any of
Yeah,
those like
definitely.
awakening new trees. And then this moon corresponds with the element of water, which I thought was pretty fascinating actually when I first learned that. You'd think it would be like earthy, but like it's very like life-giving, I feel like, and a lot of that comes with the energy of water.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is Minerva?
Minerva is Athena. Roman
Oh.
Athena.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all of those deities are very I don't know, knowledgeable and masters of their trade, right?
For sure.
And like deep-wooded individuals. I don't know, it reminds me of like the bears emerging from the caves and them kind of getting that first light like shed upon them. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. I love Bloodstone. Like I feel like it is funny that it's related to water because it feels very earthy, all of this. But it's encouraging. Yeah, I love the idea that it's life-giving ultimately as we sort of
Yeah,
re-enter
absolutely. We
in-
kind of need that extra like oomph of the water, I feel like. Whereas like Earth almost like just Earth energy alone kind of like coaxes us back to sleep, I feel like. We almost need that like water flow or that like the
True.
splash of water in your face like, all right, wake up. Come on, it's time to go. Like
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's cool.
And since we were
worms.
just talking about bears real quick, I'm going to share with you guys a fun fact that I just learned. But
Yes.
bears like full on give birth while they're sleeping, hibernating, which I did not know. They like, don't wake up at
They don't
all.
wake
Just
up.
like, here's a baby. And then they're just like asleep the whole time. Like, what?
Yeah.
That blew my
What?
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't even wake up.
It's weird that you're
The
bringing
alarm
bears
does not
up
go
because
off.
you remember how I was talking like a couple weeks ago that I kept seeing bear symbols everywhere. I dreamed about a bear last night that I had to kill it. And it's being kept on like a leash that was like a tooth, like a floss, like a string, and that was like holding it in place. And then I had to kill the bear. And now you're
I
bringing
feel like
bears
that's
up.
like big, like strength reverse tarot card. It
I have
reminds me
no
of, like,
idea what's going on with the bear
corrupted
imagery.
tarot deck
I have no idea.
that I have. It's the woman who's usually like with the lion and like petting the lion and stuff. In that card, because all that deck is art about the reversals. She's like having to slay the lion. That reminds me of that a lot. Interesting. So, mhm.
Are we going to talk about the tarot spread? Because
Yes. So,
I love this.
are you
tarot
pulling
spread.
some cards? Oh, I'm so
I
glad
did.
that you like it. So, I've got some questions for you guys to ask your tarot decks if you're interested. And if you decide to pull some cards for yourself, feel free to share it with us in the Discord. If you'd like to after the show. So the first question is, what is ready to emerge from the darkness? Which I thought that's kind of like, this is more open-ended than I used to do on a lot of my tarot spreads, but I think I'm starting to transition into more like metaphysical or like metaphorical questions, I guess, here. More open-ended. So yeah, like what is awakening for you? What is coming out of the dark and into the light? And then question 2 is, what needs to be released to make space for growth? Because with all new growth, something has to be left behind, right? It's like the cycle of life, just what it is. Something has to go away for something to take up space, right? Where the other thing was. So what do you need to release to be able to make new growth? And then what new growth or opportunity can I expect to experience in the coming months? So here's like a more like grounding expectations card of like what's coming up for you in the future. So yeah, did you guys pull any cards already, or what did you get?
I did. So I realized that I didn't have any other decks on like anywhere within grabbing distance aside from my Toth Tarot, which I
Oh.
do not use. I keep saying I'm going to start using it. It's very different. So like I've pulled it out a couple times, but haven't really got like, it didn't seem like the right time. So I didn't really get any messages that really resonated at the time. But this time I was like, I was even like, are there any other decks that I can pull? No. So I think I was supposed to pull it from this one. And I got what is ready to emerge from the darkness. I got 9 of Cups, which is happiness.
Oh.
So
that's sweet.
And specifically in the book, because I'm not familiar with Thoth Tarot at all, so I looked at the book. Specifically in the book, it says Jupiter in Pisces. So I thought that was interesting after all our talk about Pisces.
That's like abundance on abundance on abundance, right?
Yeah. What needs to be released to make space for growth is the 5 of Swords, strife.
I got the 5 of Swords too.
Which I feel that it just needs to go. It just like I've held on to it too long. It's time to go. And what new growth or opportunity can I expect to experience in the coming months? I got the Magus, which is the magician. So lots of
action.
Yeah. And I'm like, I feel this. I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever this is going to bring me. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Like,
of course, I've been waxing poetic about divination this whole time, and my dumb ass didn't even bring a single tarot deck over here. So I just used a tarot deck generator over here, which is still valid, by the way. And for the first card, I got what is ready to emerge from the darkness. I have to think about this for a second. I got the 5 of Swords reversed. So I don't know, maybe because when I see the 5 of Swords reversed, I think about like the connection, like the balance between like winning and losing. What does that mean? What does it mean to win? What does it mean to lose? What does it mean to like feel defeated or to win and thrive, you know? And it's what's ready to emerge from the darkness. Maybe just like the mindset of I'm a very black and white thinker. That's my toxic trait. And maybe it's like less so seeing things as like wins and losses and just as neutral happenings, and just sort of walking through life a little bit more in control, and not letting my mind tell me like, oh, you're a bad person or a bad streamer or a bad tarot card reader if I do this, but I'm a good tarot card reader, streamer, person if I do that, and sort of maintaining a more solid sense of neutrality. But I'll pontificate upon that more later. I'll have to think about that. What needs to be released to make space for growth? I really like this card here. I got the 10 of Cups reversed, and I got to release the idyllic life. I gotta release the idea that everything's gonna turn out perfectly for me, that everything's it's gonna be happy, joy all throughout this journey right now. And of course, Saturn return, right? I feel like I'm being very grounded at the moment as well, just sort of getting back in touch with reality.
Yeah, a bit of a wake-up call, like, hey, dream can happen, but you gotta take the steps there to get there. You can't just expect it.
Right. And this journey isn't meant to be sunshine and roses. There is meant to be shadows and unhappiness and worry and feeling unfulfilled, because maybe those shadows are what push me into embodying and creating and controlling my life on a more radical scale. So I liked that. And then the last card was what growth or opportunity can I expect from all of this? Ace of Pentacles. Give me my fucking money. I'm ready to like make money for real. Like, I'm tired of being poor, man. I'm sick of it. Like, I accepted poorness for a little bit just because of the life I lead. Like, I really embodied like the starving artist trope for a really long time. I'm fucking sick of it, man. Like fuck capitalism, but like also like I
we live in a society.
We fucking live in a society, man. Like, I want some good fortune.
I want to be able to do shit too. Like, that's the thing that's been hurting me lately. It's like, I want to be able to take a trip because I want to. Like,
yeah, like I want opportunities for like this like material growth, right? Like and I like that by releasing expectations of us being a smooth, fun journey, and standing in more neutrality, which is also a pull I've been experiencing a lot as a black or white thinker. As I said, it that'd be great if that led me to more money and just wealth in general, right? I think it represents wealth on all levels, wisdom, and just a better understanding on what the hell this is all about. So I mean, I'll take that. I will eat that all up. If true is how I'm feeling about this tarot reading. Did you pull any cards, Time?
No, I don't have a tarot deck on my desk today.
What is with all of us? Like, all of us
one.
didn't have any tarot. Like, what are we?
I've been
Are
reorganizing
we
a lot
even
of my
Celestial
space,
Café? Yeah, I like cleaned up and I had like 7 decks on my desk, and I cleaned up and put them away.
Yeah, I had like, I don't know, 8 or 9 from the tarot stream the other day, and I put them all up in my closet. I normally at least have one here, but they're all put away today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up my end of the podcast. If you guys want to read more about the worm moon and get those shadow work prompts and things like that, check out my blog. This one is at barrelwoodfarm.com/worm-moon. So check it out.
Now we're going to talk about Ostara. So Ostara is happening on Monday, March 20th. It is the spring equinox. So it's a time for balance. It's when the sun and the day and the night are the same amount. It's like 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night before the days start getting longer. So it's a time of balance, it's a time of equality. It's also a time of light and fertility and growth because the days are getting longer. The days have been getting longer, but they're going to be longer than night now.
Officially.
Officially. So it's a great time to celebrate the sun. It's one of the easiest ways you can celebrate it is by just greeting the sun. Being there when the sun rises, or just going out and saying, "Hello, sun." Some of us haven't gone to sleep yet when the sun rises, so we might find that easier to do than others. But it's just celebrating the sun's return at dawn. It's a time to embrace spring. It's time to start sowing your seeds, the ones that we talked about earlier, the ones that do well this early in the season, the spring crops and the spring flowers when tulips start popping up. And it's a good time, if it rains, get some rainwater and use that for your moon water. But instead of moon water, sun water. Just you can like we had a whole episode. The last episode was not the last episode, 2 episodes ago was about the moon, and we talked about moon water. You can do the same kind of things with the energy of the sun, with sun water. And so getting some sun water on the spring equinox is a perfect time for that. So it's time to plant seeds, and one of like the ways you can enjoy that is maybe it's not warm enough to put the plants outside yet where you are, but you can like paint the pots that they're going to be growing in indoors and paint them in the nice like pastel spring colors. It's a very, very much like, think of the pastels, the pinks and the purples and the greens. Those are the colors that you want to be thinking about during Ostara. And like just like a fun little craft for Ostara is painting the pots for the seeds, but also painting eggs.
I was gonna say this is all very Easter like.
Yes, it's very Easter Ostara. Very, very similar in practices, in traditions. Dyeing eggs. There's the tale of the rabbit and the egg, which is has like very debated origins, but it's not as old as some people claim, but is not as brand new as some people claim. So it's like kind of like that mystery. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, is kind of like in that realm of mystery that I also feel like it fits with this kind of energy that we have going on with right now with the astrology.
There's
so,
like and when I think about Ostara too, I think about the Fae, which
yes.
is
very I have, what is it? It's a time for getting in touch with the nature spirits, especially the Fae and the Green Man. It's a time for embracing nature and embracing spring and getting in touch with those spirits. It's the Fae are around all year, but this is definitely like, if you don't work with them at all the time, this is the time where you might feel their presence a lot stronger than you did in winter. Other crafts that are really nice for it are sun catchers and wind chimes. Just again, like those little enjoying the sun, enjoying the nature, and you can use all those different colors that are those spring colors, which are pastels, pink, green, purple, and gold. For the sun. So all the colors you would think, and then gold. So and then there are also crystals associated with Ostara: rose quartz, moonstone, amethyst, amazonite, aquamarine, and clear quartz, which we heard a couple of those from Panthera earlier. And then there are just like so many foods that you can think of. It's a feast holiday, so a lot of that
they all are.
They all are. We love our food. But think of any foods you can make with eggs, you won't go wrong. So if you think of quiche, you think of deviled eggs, you think of just omelets, like, and put like omelets with like spring onions and like all these like nice little.
I thought you were gonna say sprinkles. Yummy.
If they're pastel colored, yeah. So just enjoy the comforts of the breakfast, I guess, for Ostara. Yeah. Especially since it's one of the ways to celebrate it is to greet the sun. Greet it with a nice egg breakfast. Unless you're vegan, in which case, egg substitute.
There's plenty of egg substitutes out there for sure.
Yeah. And then there are a few unusual traditions that I really enjoy like reading about to welcome in spring. So like Gloucestershire, they roll a giant cheese wheel down a hill to welcome in spring. Why does that welcome in spring? Nobody knows, but it's tradition. So they just roll a giant wheel of cheese, and I think people race it. I'm not sure. There's some place that they race a wheel of cheese. Maybe it's that. In Switzerland, the focus is rather on the end of winter instead of the coming of spring. So they burn a snowman. So it's just like that shift in perspective. They're like, winter is done. They're not thinking, they're thinking like in the inverse. So I think that's interesting because
Olaf, get out of here.
Goodbye, Olaf. I actually just watched Frozen the other day. I've seen it before, but I hadn't seen it since it came out.
Violence. I love
it. So whether you're celebrating the coming of spring or just the end of winter, either one is seen throughout the world. So in Poland, they celebrate the end of winter. Maybe it's more common in the places where winters are more brutal. So we're like, good riddance. But so you can celebrate either one, but Ostara basically is the beginning of spring. It's a time of balance. Think on what do you need to balance in your life? What do you need to kind of like embody temperance? What do you need to I feel like all Sabbats are a good time for meditation, but especially the ones that are focused on balance is like meditate and think on what you need to find balance on. But it's also a time of fertility and growth. So what do maybe like I know I need to find balance so that I can work on the things that I want to grow. So they go in hand for me because I do not know moderation whatsoever. But
and that's definitely supported with this moon too. Just being able to prioritize, plan, edit, refine. As to sort of reemerge, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a good time to get all your ducks in a row and start working on the seeds of spring, what you want to bring in for the year. March 20th.
Yeah, so that's just around the corner. So we've got the full moon coming up next week, Saturn going into Pisces, and we've got Ostara a little bit after that. And then here in the northern hemisphere, it's going to be getting warming up. In the southern hemisphere, y'all are going to be cooling down. So we got some great big seasonal shifts that are going on right now, and I guess let's see how we can navigate them, how we can work our way through all of this.
Yes, it will be the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. So go back 6 months in our podcast archive and listen to that for your relevant information.
True.
Okay. Well, do y'all have anything else to add before we wrap up?
Nope, I said everything I wanted to say.
I've got like closing promo, but if you want to learn more about, like I said, the worm moon, or I have a lot of content on Ostara as well on both my YouTube and my blog. I've got information about Ostara also an altar decorating video and things like that. I'm hoping to come out with something more before Ostara this year, so we'll see. But yeah, keep an eye out for that content.
Now that you've got a new mic and actually can do stuff again.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that definitely, and a new computer that can actually edit now. This is great.
I have a video review coming up of Little Witch of the Woods. So if you want to escape reality and go live in the woods by yourself away from society and just gather twigs all day, this is the game for you. So come live your cottagecore fantasy. And check that out. So that will be out on Monday.
Yeah, then I'm just streaming. So stop by. I do tarot readings. I'm gonna be playing video games. I don't know. It's not that deep. I'm just gonna be jigsaw puzzles, coloring books. We're gonna figure it out.
Let's go.
But mostly
right now,
puzzle
stream.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
I love puzzles.
Yeah. Oh my god, puzzle fan club. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So that's all that's going on with me. What about you, Ty?
I don't know. I've just been playing Final Fantasy IX and sharing some clips from my Q&A streams about streamer tips and stuff on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to try to kick back into Twitch next week. May do a tarot stream tomorrow. I'm still not sure. So just kind of like cruising through. It's a lot to balance and I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, this has been the Celestial Café podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at celestialcafe.org, including our Patreon link if you would like to support us and help enable us to make more content like this for you. And I suppose that's it. So do we have our schedule planned out? Do we know what we're doing next week?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
We do know what we're doing, but do we know what we're doing?
Is the history of black cats, or like cats and witches, is what we're going to be talking about.
Cats
so that's going to be a
magic,
me and Fuchsia mini episode, and I'm so excited. But we're going to be talking about the history of cats and witches together.
So that's not going to be live stream next Thursday. That's going to be a podcast exclusive. So that will be Monday, the 13th of March. That will be available on podcasting platforms. So that will be our next episode. And yeah, I guess that wraps us up here. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and enjoy the full moon energy. And I guess I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.